Welcome to episode 1 of De-mystifying Digital. My name's Catherine Stretton. I'm the Chief Digital and Innovation Officer at Deloitte Africa. In this series, we will explore the state of digital transformation in Africa in practical terms. Today, I want to welcome two guests, Jania Okwachime. Jania is a partner in the analytics team in Deloitte Africa's Lagos office, and Vanessa Seika, a senior manager in the Cognitive Advantage team in Johannesburg. Welcome to the discussion, ladies.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Kath.
So let's kick off. In the spirit of demystifying digital, what is AI? Jania, let me have your views. It's such a widely used term. What do we mean when we say artificial intelligence or AI?
So artificial intelligence is the same thing that we might have heard in the past together with artificial neural networks or machine learning or data science, and what has evolved over the years now going back to artificial intelligence is a series of tools and technology that is basically going to help computers to think and mimic like humans to be able to gain insights into our world. How can we come up with innovative models that can think and process information to be able to make predictions? You know, if you're thinking about an avatar or a robot, you can think of artificial intelligence as the robot, and you can think of machine learning as the brain of the robot that is going to process information to be able to make predictions, to be able to help develop solutions to be innovative in this industry.
So, Jania, it sounds a little bit like Skynet. Are the robots going to take over the world?
No, not at all. I mean, that's the impression everyone gets. And no, certainly not. AI is not going to take over the world. Humans are still sitting in the driver's seat. It's really, as we say in Deloitte, we're living in the age of with, where artificial intelligence, together with us as humans, we are going to be more innovative, and we're going to make an impact at a different level that's going to help us humans and our societies be better, drive better, and be more innovative and efficient. So certainly not. Robots are not going to take over the world.
It's very comforting. So Vanessa, let me ask you, you're a senior manager in the Cognitive Advantage team. Is that AI, or what's Cognitive Advantage, and what does your team do?
So in its simplest form, I like to say that the CogAd team, which is a nickname for ourselves, the CogAd team, we like to solve problems. My view on that is we take complex problems and solve them via a beautiful service. So it's understanding what the problem that the business is facing, truly understanding the process behind it, understanding why it needs to be solved, in what way does it need to be solved, what is the outcome we want from it, and then using AI as an embedded service within the tool or application to help businesses solve their problems. So that is really an end-to-end view of it. We have a design team that looks at the design thinking of the problem, works through those processes, works through the applications, etc. We have a AI or ML team that uses that intelligence, not the Skynet, but just the normal artificial intelligence to help inform the problem or support the decision making. And then we have a beautiful front end and back end that is designed by our developers to enable those humans to either access the insight, access the information, and make and support the decisions that they have to do in their business to solve whatever that problem is.
It sounds pretty sophisticated. I mean, AI seems well embedded. We have teams in Africa that are doing AI. Tell me, Jania, as someone that has worked both in London and other countries and in Nigeria as well, how does AI uptake in Africa compare to the other places that you've worked? Are we right up the front, at the forefront, on the cutting edge, or is there some catching up to do?
I would say we're not quite there at the forefront. However, there's been a huge shift in the market, certainly in the past 3 years that I have been operating in the West Africa market, that there are certainly a lot more awareness about AI and the benefits of using AI. However, we're still finding our steps. We're not crawling, we're actually walking, but what we see mostly is that, yes, there are specific applications that are very more mature than others. And certainly we see a large fintech and startup market that are disrupting the market when it comes to leveraging technology. And that's, I think, has been driven more based on necessity. Financial inclusion, for example, is a big initiative here in West Africa. And that's why we see some of the applications are driven by being able to provide banking and finance services to the unbanked. And that's where machine learning and artificial intelligence comes in, to be able to leverage some of the data that's available to be able to provide products and services. So while we see some of the applications being more mature, we still have some way to go in terms of actually embedding AI as part of the enterprise and starting to be very intentional by setting up AI strategy, by setting up a data strategy to be able to really mature in this area and be more, I would say, in the other side of the curve. And that's where me and my colleagues at Deloitte come in, which is to create this awareness and to help build the foundations and help organizations get to that level of maturity, as we know is not a luxury anymore, but a necessity if you want to stay in the market in the next decade.
So I always like that quote. There are AI-driven companies and there are companies that will be AI-driven in the near term. It seems as though AI is pervasive, and it's certainly a skill set that's going to become more and more important, and we'll get to that in a second. Maybe just to color in what's actually happening on the ground in the AI world, a question to Vanessa. I mean, what kinds of projects are you guys doing? What beautiful services are you making? What kinds of business problems are you currently solving for your clients in the African market?
No, there's so many. And it's not just an African market. I think the Cognitive Advantage team is actually doing quite a bit of global work as well, into Europe and into the Middle East. Our work is quite varied and ranged. It's anything from a government entity all the way to telecommunications, all the way to FMCGs. And it's a lot about predicting the future and helping people make the best decision with imperfect information. So a lot of what we're doing at the moment is a lot of predicting time series. So if I know that I'm going to need stock at a specific distribution center, how do I predict the demand for that to allow the production cycle to actually supply that? So we're doing quite a lot of work like that. We're also doing some regulatory work, trying to pick up anomalies. Oh, I always get that word wrong. Anomalies in data and in regulatory processes. For instance, in the telecommunications, can we pick up fraud in SIM card issuing? And then really trying to look internally at Deloitte and seeing how we can make our colleagues' lives easier as well, helping out the internal audit space, looking at how we can automate some of their processes in a more intelligent way. So we've really got everything from helping governments looking at their real estate sectors to telecommunications to internal. I mean, there's a whole broad range of things that we do. And the great thing about AI is it really can be used in multitude of situations. So I think just lots of really exciting projects on the go that I'm loving being a part of.
So let me take your lead and ask you about your personal journeys, because both of you are senior. And let me start with Jania. What's the path that led you to this place in AI that you currently occupy? How did you get here?
So, Catherine, looking back at my journey, I would say my journey started when I was 17 and I left my native country to go and pursue higher education. And I loved math, so I naturally just picked the course with the most math offering, and that was computer science. But throughout my bachelor's degree, I got to pick two courses, specifically image processing and artificial neural networks, that really, introduced me to this world of, neural networks, which now, decades later, we know it as deep learning. So I got very keen and intrigued. So I ended up pursuing a master's degree, very specialized in that, which was vision imaging and virtual environments, which I later then got more in-depth knowledge and understanding of pattern recognition and machine vision. And eventually I pursued a PhD where I did research on computer vision, which is an area of artificial intelligence where you build models to help computers see and interpret images and videos. So some of my work included publications in face recognition, gender classification, pedestrian detection, and some medical image analysis. So you can see I come from an academic background where I got to actually learn about AI from inside out and very sort of hands-on. So then you can imagine I've just completed my PhD. I feel like I'm an expert in this field, really keen to go to industry and conquer the world. But this is close to 2 decades ago. And at the time, artificial intelligence was not mainstream. There were literally no jobs in the UK where I was at the time that were really leveraging AI. And it was only the big companies like Google at the time, and only out of their US office that had some pockets of, leveraging computer vision. So in light of that, I ended up getting a job in the industry as a big data consultant. And for the first few months of starting my career, I was very disappointed and bogged down that, I'm really expert or, skilled in this particular interesting area, which is AI, but I can't leverage my skills. But I had to sort of get over that feeling and really learn new skills and leverage big data analytics. And now, long story short, 2 decades later, I find myself in Nigeria where I'm leading this technology area where I've actually been able to combine my big data skills as well as artificial intelligence expertise to be really able to help our clients be insight-driven organization by leveraging their data and actually helping utilize modern technologies such as AI to be able to be insight-driven. And that way I'm helping our clients really be data-driven and making an impact that matters in that way. So this is what led me to a career in AI.
So do you think AI is now mainstream?
Certainly more than it was back in, over a decade ago. We're still not quite there yet in West Africa, but at least we have these positions called data scientists that are very highly sought after. So there is that initiative that AI is being utilized and the companies are aware of it, as opposed to when you spoke about it back in the days, it was more of a things of a fiction, or maybe Google will do it and eventually Facebook, but not a lot of other companies at the time were even talking about it.
Vanessa, what about your path? I know you started on a more traditional path and evolved into AI. How did that work, and what was the switch for you that made you adopt the AI path?
Slipped on a banana peel and landed with my bum in the butter, really. So I am leaving school. I actually didn't know what I wanted to do, and I decided I was just going to do the hardest degree that I could possibly find, and I landed up doing actuarial science. I made it to third year before realizing that I absolutely hated it. It was definitely not for me. Luckily, when you get to third year, they've made you do statistics all the way up to there. And that was just one thing I never had to study for. So I eventually graduated with an honors in statistics. My honors year being an absolutely wonderful year. I just loved it. I went into banking for 10 years, doing various data analytics kind of functions, credit risk analyst, rewards targeting. So a lot of really hardcore data and analytics. And then I decided I wanted to do the cool stuff. I was tired of doing sort of normal regression models, and I wanted to go and learn all these new AI techniques that were coming out and becoming a little bit more mainstream. I was hired then by Deloitte out of a team called the Data Analytics team, which still exists. And I worked there for about, I'd say, 2 years before I was accepted to do my master's in data science at UCT. And when I came back, we kind of formed this little startup under the Deloitte umbrella that really focused on AI and machine learning. And that's really where I suppose I became the sort of AI, and I'm making air quotes with my fingers, this AI expert. So really, as I think, just a consequence of doing something that I liked, doing data, which I loved, doing thinking, which I loved, and then being in the right place at the right time. I think Yania would agree. Like, we've just got lucky, I suppose, by following our instinct and our passion.
Absolutely. I think, Catherine, if I may add to what Vanessa just said, in terms of wanting to do some of the cool stuff, it reminds me of eventually after working as a big data consultant, I joined Deloitte back in 2014 in the UK, where, I was working in a forensic technology. And one of my instincts was that we could use actually some of the more modern technology. Why don't we start adding some of the machine learning and predictive stuff. At the time, I was doing forensic work, which has to do with a lot of like investigations and sort of fraud investigations, etc. And it was just that, having to discuss and say, hey, let's try this, let's do something new. So this is where I said, okay, let me bring some of my academic background and expertise to try and build, something different, which could be experimental in the beginning, but then it could lead to something. And it just took that conversation to start doing a proof of concept analysis. And we end up eventually led to me developing and starting and running the AI unit within forensic technology, which led to the first AI platform in technology-assisted review, which is some of the e-discovery work that happens. So it really is like that, wanting to do something different, bringing what you can and starting from somewhere. And then, the rest is history. Before you know, you've started to make that change internally, and it just translates. And then the same goes towards our clients.
So both of you sound as though you've drunk the Kool-Aid. But if I pick through what you've said, I mean, it's doing the cool stuff, it's experimental, it's taking quite an academic background and applying it in an experimental way to new kinds of business problems. So there's a lot of innovation in it.
There's a lot of trying and failing in it as well, just to put that out there. We're going to try this and see if it works, try this and see if it works. And eventually you do solve the problem, but it may not be quite as straightforward as let's just be innovative.
And I mean, would you characterize it as quite a creative stream, albeit it's very maths heavy and it's about data and it's about rigor, but there seems to be a thread of creativity that runs through it as well.
It's the black art, right? So it's about knowing what's going to work and what's not going to work, and about trying enough stuff. But it's creative, definitely. But it's not just about, putting a line on a piece of paper and calling it art. It's about really working at it to make sure that it comes out the way you want it.
So there's a lot of pain behind the glamour.
Absolutely.
Yes, it's an art, and also it's a science, which is why I like that we call it data science. And it's something for our clients to also understand and digest. And that's some of the things that sometimes is challenging. But also, again, coming from, academia, when you're doing a PhD, you're trying to push the boundaries of science and you try to come up with really cool, innovative methods. But one thing I learned in industry is that it has to work. So it's not always about the most complicated things, but it has to be practical. So we're bringing it into our clients and, the business space. AI is only good or helpful if it's helping you solve a business problem. So what at Deloitte we're also very careful of is not just about building cool stuff that just does something. It's cool stuff that helps our clients to solve a business problem, which is why it's very important that even AI practitioners have that well-rounded knowledge and vision of this is the business problem, this is the client strategy. Knowing what we know and what AI can do, how do we marry the two together and actually come up with a solution that is innovative, but also absolutely practical and useful for our client?
I think people might be surprised as to how much of our jobs is actually talking to people and understanding complex problems before you even pick up a piece of code or strategy or anything like that. It really is getting to know somebody in their business and getting to understand what their frustrations are and their problem points are, and walking that journey with them to actually understand what do they want this thing to do? How is it going to help them? How are the end users going to use this thing on a daily basis? And I think that's where you have to start. So I think a lot of people think about data science as, sitting behind a computer in a dark corner coding away. That's absolutely not what it is. It's about people and helping them. You can be the best coder in the world, but if you can't understand that, you are going to struggle.
Excellent point. So if I'm going to bring out my storytelling self, we're powering the new phase of growth on the African continent. I mean, I'm sure AI is going to be a huge driver of growth for our companies and our governments and economies going forward. That's it for part 1 of this very interesting discussion on the state of artificial intelligence in Africa. Join us in episode 2, where we discuss what it takes to create a career in AI in Africa.